Just do it. It'll turn out okay. And today, the okay is all the way from Australia.
From down under.
Oh, definitely. Last time he was on my channel. I don't think the pandemic had happened yet, or just in its early. It was just in its early stages.
Yeah, well, don't we? And you mentioned it was when the fires we had just before the pandemic, 2019, early 2020. That's crazy over here, and then the fire stopped, and we thought, then all of a sudden we're all getting locked down.
So I can say,
so it's sort of like pandemic in between the conversations.
Yeah, I was gonna ask so would the pandemic help not going outside, or be worse because you're stuck when the fire's coming towards you?
Fortunately, the fires had finished at that point, but it wouldn't have been. You had some form of lockdown with the bushfires, because people just had when you've got these bushfires, people will be evacuated to clubs, so you'll get people sort of crowded into an auditorium. You've got a pandemic on, you're not social distancing it.
Yeah.
But fortunately,
yeah, I guess this fire and pandemic will be at the end of your history lecture, because it's happened really recently.
Well, it's funny. It's my daughter all the time, especially when the pandemic was happening. And it's probably the historian in me. I said to her, happening now, remember it as well as you can, because we're always living through history, but we were.
Yeah.
I would imagine in 100 years they'll still be talking about the pandemic and the effects it had.
Well, they still talk about the 1918
on the effect.
quote Spanish flu from 100 years ago. So.
Yeah, the Spanish flu. Yeah, that originated in Spain. Funnily enough, look, it's and look, that probably got brought up a pandemic.
Yeah.
But look, history is always happening. History is always being discussed.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So before we start, I want to know: do you consider yourself the smallest continent or the biggest island, or both?
Both. Look, there's always mental shelf. It's a bit of a machine, incorporates Papua New Guinea as well, Indonesia, West Papua. Look, I think I definitely the biggest island, because and I think technically because Australia is a continent, I think we can call.
All right, cool. Now I heard your constellations down there are different than ours up here. And I know you need to look at constellations down. Even if you're even a constellation person.
Yeah, look, a little bit. I guess the one that's I think it's always been someone with like it. There's one like us that's upside down, and we call it the Big Dipper, because it looks like it's with a handle. So you the saucepan, but yeah, I'm not an astronomer very much.
Neither am I.
What I'm wrong.
Yeah, we have.
People don't go. It should be. We see them. You'd see them, or you see them upside down to what we'd see them.
True. Yeah, I know we have the North Star, and you as a you have the entire you have a cross on your end.
Which is actually on the Australian, and well, they just cut a star out.
Are you buffering on your end? Because you're kind of a little bit going in and out on my end.
Okay, it seems to be going okay.
Okay, making sure.
Full signal.
Probably my end then. What's that's the thing, when you talk across 14 hours and across the Pacific Ocean, stuff happens sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, look, it's weird, wonderful things. People say Australia's not real, so maybe that's the.
Well, it's on the bottom side of the Earth, for the flat Earthers.
Yeah,
that's because they're all those. That's because they're all those rocks and stuff.
And yeah, I just think the maps are upside down. I think we're on top and beneath.
All right, so I guess we'll start with the first immigrants to Australia, the marsupials.
Yes, well, land bridges have taken many worldwide, and I'm not. We did have a lot of megafauna here. A very, I guess there wasn't any until around about 60 approximately. So we giant animals, giant fauna, giant flora, and then that tends to change that a little bit.
And when there's no humans to hunt them or eat them, then they can prosper a little bit, I guess.
Look, we don't have a lot of what I'd call in Australia. We don't have tigers, anything along those lines. Even though there are a lot of land bridges separated from the rest of the very long time, so there was islands, even though a lot of that built up, there was actually still a gap between, I guess, New Guinea to get to Australia and also the global community.
See, wait, you're very technical about it. Australia had the very first Pokemon.
Pikachu is from here.
Well, no, they're Pokemon are pocket monsters. Feels are pocket monsters. Monsters that have pockets.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I'll put that on the list of good things.
Yeah, definitely.
So something interesting actually. I guess if the Indigenous Australians, so they were years ago, and
yeah,
what's interesting, as I mentioned, there was no full land bridge.
I think they arrived 60 to 100,000 years ago. I remember my numbers right.
About yeah. So approximately years ago, and they crossed into Australia, New Guinea. But what's interesting, as I mentioned, Australia was still separated. So from the rest of the Afro-Eurasian, even North America was attached.
So they might have made the first goats. Like they might have made the first boats or something.
Absolutely.
Unless the
Indian. I'm going to show you. No one was swimming across the amount of nasties in the water we've got. Australians were actually the evidence first ever seafaring people, which got to Australia. They seemed to there wasn't necessarily to seafaring, although the Torres Strait Island certainly did, and certainly around islands that we have here. But yeah, the first seafaring. So 60,000 years ago, then as the sea level climbed, what actually happened was the indigenous Australia from the rest of for a very long period of time, the 17th when the Europeans started to the door. So
yeah,
go there's
I do have
such
a question
a
before.
huge. Yeah, sure.
Sorry. I don't know if I'm interrupting you now because of the static, but so between the original Australian people and the Europeans coming on later on and stuff, did the dogs or dingoes come with the original Australians, or they come later?
That they came with the indigenous, so they would
Okay.
have come over. They would have crossed um, at around, but they weren't in Australia, so
Okay.
they were very wild species.
Yeah, because I forget how I forget how exactly they were one, but I heard, I may be wrong here. I heard they were domesticated dogs that became wild again.
Yeah, look, there possibly is that they didn't. I think once again this is absolutely not my. I
Yeah.
believe they did come a little bit later. I think that
Okay.
off the top of my head, I think 9,000 years ago that probably
Okay.
would have been
That's
just around. They possibly
about the time
crossed.
about the time the Ice Age was ending.
Yeah, it would have been like right towards the end of the. So they've only just gotten.
Okay.
Although they're possibly been from. I mean, when I say there was with the indigenous population, there was some from southern Asia or Southeast Asia,
All
Ireland.
right.
There was seafaring, so there was some limited contact. I believe it's around about 8 or 9,000.
Okay. I just want to get a timetable because off topic of Australia, but it's weird if then if they're former dogs, then that means they're a subspecies of a subspecies. Since dogs are a
Yeah,
subspecies of wolves, then
yeah, they're definitely a predatory species. Australians didn't.
I guess they would if they would be I guess they would be the first invasive species then that kind of are now dominant.
Dingoes
Kind of.
aren't really a problem
Well, now I believe they've had a few thousand years to
in
adapt.
most of Australia.
So
yeah, well, we've actually got there's a giant dingo runs the length of the continent that keeps in Australia, which is where the majority of the population. For instance, where I am, see a dingo. You'll see them in areas, the outback, Western Australia, South Australia, but they tend to be fairly where they are. So it's an issue.
So did anything major happen between then and when the Europeans decided to give you guys a visit?
Yeah, absolutely. The Indigenous Australian culture. Unfortunately, a lot of it we doubt, and we're still learning about, had methods of agriculture very different to agriculture that you saw through the Afro-Eurasian and American continents, and the separation in time, and else in the climate and I guess the conditions. So very much a tribal, call it a merger of hunter-gatherer. So the land was definitely looked after, was fully maintained. It was sort of within their area. There weren't fences and there weren't villages. Worked.
Hopefully someday we can learn a little bit more, because I guess when sometimes I know it's harder or easier to do it when you're just what's the word, not God, spoken history.
Well,
I know that makes it easier or harder.
We do have some written history of cave paintings,
that's true.
depicting some. But look, and also I think there's a tendency to look at
well, then again, even with written history, people copy it down wrong too. So either way, after a few thousand years, stuff gets a little telephony, either written telephone or spoken telephone game.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we've got a pretty good idea. Fortunately, a lot of the indigenous languages, they weren't in language form like we would. So it's art depicting what's going on. So it's easy to translate, but the things are very good. And most societies where they don't have, in the sense that we do, their information and accurately is a lot better. Lost as a species, I guess, reading and writing. Look, even in the world today, you'll see in I guess in places like Kazakhstan, places like that where there isn't, you'll find that children are able to recite the Quran in full and accurately. The skill that they've got.
So
that skill was around with the indigenous population.
Oh, that reminds me. Did the Muslim religion Islam come over to Australia around before they could to Australia, or is that they never made that far?
No,
I know they made I know they made to the islands around you. I think at least by 1300s. I don't know if they made to you guys.
Yeah, they definitely East Asian of trade between the North and Australia and Southeast Asia. So Islamic people would have never made the religion never really to Australia. Right. Now that being said, colonisation, there's every chance as the world but no.
All right. I guess so we had a bit, I guess. We can go back if we need to, but what made the British look at Australia and decide this is a great place for a prison?
Well, America had they needed somewhere else to send the convicts. I guess you need to look at in Britain at the time. So
Yeah.
in Britain at the time, high rates of poverty, and unfortunately, the result of that crime sort of is people need to feed themselves, look after people in impoverished situations. Now, the British decided very, very strict laws. So, if you were caught stealing, you hang. Fortunately, there was just so many. What was happening was because of the high rates, all the jails were full, and they actually had what were called on the Thames River because they had nowhere to have. Decided to increase the levels of. You would, if you stole something, any crime, you would. But what happened was they sent people to what was called 7 years transported to a penal colony. The North America, US, and Canada.
Yeah,
was certainly
I think,
used on this.
yeah, I think we used to call the prison. I think it used to be Georgia was the prison in America.
That sounds. I think that's right. Actually, I think even might have as well. Then War of Independence happens, and people anyway. Now,
And
Australia
yeah, and they're like,
first.
I was making a joke real fast. I was like, America's like, no, you can't keep sending your prisoners here.
Yeah, well, no, well, you guys were independent. But in 1770, there was it was actually to in the South Pacific, Captain Cook, and what had happened, said to Cook, look, while you're there, landmass Terra Australis, and have a look at it, and just quickly map it. A small land mass that attached to New Guinea, just west of. Early maps had always depicted Australis as what we know as. So there was still a lot of discovery and confusion at the time. So British weren't expecting to find isolated land masses as what they did. One of the people on the boat was a botanist, and Joseph Banks was a very aristocratic, powerful, but he was looking at the different plants and cataloguing them, the voyages through the South Pacific. That Australia, they found Australia. They found Botany Bay, which is today, and they've coast and of course claimed it for Britain. Did and gotten back. So the War of Independence has happened in the United States. Exploitation is happening in small amounts, but really there was an issue. There was no fix. Now they had Australian Cook actually recommended against it. He said, no, the land isn't good. Captain Gray up on farms. He said the land's no suitable. But Joseph Banks, and Joseph Banks was the parliamentary expert on Australia. This is the way to go, and he got himself a nice, well-paid position for many years advising on. So in 1786, First Fleet Expedition, Portsmouth in the UK, the journey to Australia, the Botany Bay, and realised that the land, they couldn't start a colony there. So they started to sail different sites that they case the maps. He stumbled into what's called North. Now, as you come into Sydney Harbour, it just looks like a small inlet that loops around and snakes around into described as the greatest harbour, protected harbour in the world. So on the January 1788, the New South Wales was declared at Sydney, and the convicts were taken off the ship.
Okay.
That's the very brief how and why they came to Australia. Now something that not a lot of people think of. There's a lot of invasion and things like that. And I think British invasion of the indigenous land. But the convict invaders, we think of prisoners, we think convicts, and we find modern sense. We think of the prison nowadays, the hard and toughened in jail. But the prisoners who were sent were so varied. There was one who was
they're like a misdemeanor.
He was a 9-year-old.
Like misdemeanor, more like misdemeanors than hardcore felonies.
Completely. If you were a murderer or someone who did something, you weren't getting transportation, you were getting hung. Laws back then. But I mean, one guy who was 9 years old when he was convicted. Now, this is someone who had been orphaned of 2 fending for himself. So, in order to sell them so he could eat. Now, he's transported to Australia at 10 years old. And sadly, I mean, well, although he's young, there was 13-year-old who was sent. There was stories of advances made towards them. They not by their bosses or the people who were slavery, but the advance, so they would be accused of stealing now, but they would, it was their word against, and they would be sentenced. So, and these 10-year-old boys being sent world.
So, quick personal question: Are you a descendant? Is your ancestry one of those 10-year-olds sent to Australia?
I have ancestry from. So I haven't, as though I have an Indigenous ancestor. I have ancestors from the Second Fleet, but not from the First Fleet. Definitely from quite a number from the Second Fleet. There's every chance that I do have one of those 13-year-olds in my. I haven't researched it that heavily.
So you're pretty much from the first immigration wave and then maybe the second or third immigration wave. So you're pretty much the native born.
Well, yeah. I mean, I consider myself. I just consider myself to be Australian, so I don't consider myself Indigenous, myself European. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know too much about that. Now, there's an Indigenous link. We haven't looked into it.
You can't track.
It would probably make.
You mean you can't track?
Well, there's a in history. So when there's an ancestor that we had, and what had happened was a brother and a sister who with the same name as the brother and sister. We're trying to work out which one. I looked into it too much. Which one was their descendant from? Because they all also doesn't help. One line, then it's non-Indigenous, it's Indigenous, but it would be. I mean, we're talking about 1/160th. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's
this is going back to
yeah, I
19th
was
century.
making a joke.
So it's
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke saying, "What you mean you can't trace your ancestry back at 60,000 years, 60,000 plus years?" I mean,
no, we can't. Yeah, so I mean, look, but I mean, to me, it doesn't really concern. Yeah, I certainly have a connection. Yeah, this is my home. It's where ancestors were born, and whether we're going 100 years or even, I doubt about 150 years ago, about
I do have
60,000 years. Who knows? I mean,
I do have a question though. Something that confuses me a bit. Are you still connected to the British? Or are you your own separate, not connected to the British, not separated at all?
we're Commonwealth, so technically the king is the same as Canada. So we're an independent nation. We make our own laws. The represents the king in, I guess that's sort of the equivalent of our president, but long-standing tradition in general, or the crown will rest through the Parliament and Senate.
All right.
Almost our system is actually it's a hybrid of the British and American.
Wow.
So we have a House of Representatives, which is similar to the House that you're in, where senators based on the state or territory. They have the Governor General, who is representative in Australia. So that's not an elected position. That's the government. The equivalent, I guess, of the president, where sign off on any laws.
Mhm.
So yeah, very much it's our system is based off the
You're a mixed. You're a mixed breed.
Yeah. With so hopefully that answers that question
Yeah.
for you.
Right. So how? Okay, so we got the I think it was the late 1700s when the what was life like in the 1800s?
Interesting. It was I guess it was, well, depending on experience, was the experiences with for the indigenous population. It wasn't. There was some horrific things. Population.
What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say people are racist and stuff against other people?
I don't racism, but
Or,
I'd certainly call
I don't.
dominating another.
Yeah.
Racism is a very simple idea.
Okay.
I certainly with Australia, and although it was one group dominating another due to any racial, it was more a case of just it was cultural.
Oh,
I think
culturist.
racial dominance.
Yeah.
Yeah, the belief that in society was more than a lot of other ones. So and belief that amongst the thing, but certainly as it progressed, it did absolutely come into Australia, like the white Australia policy.
Yeah. So Australia to the Aborigines was almost like us Americans to the Native American Indians.
Yes, very similar, but different. It's
Okay.
the subjugation and the people from their traditional lands. The methods, I know in the US or in America, your indigenous population were put onto reservation. Ours were just forced out, and no one went or what they did. In some cases, massacres. There's history, sadly, but we have things like the Appin massacre. Entire indigenous tribe was massacred because there'd been a conflict where the farmers had died. Mind you, this an indigenous voice, the indigenous people, the government retaliated by it. So there was certainly a regard for life and land rights. Sorry, it gets a bit hard. It is such a disgusting description. And it's something that
So let's see. So is there any like natural resources that Australia can export to other countries, or is everything imported?
We've got more natural anywhere in the world. Most of in the world, uranium, we've got it all. Coal, we're a huge mining nation. So Australia, yes. So we export iron ore, most of the steel. Asia, certainly China. I think all of China's steel. We've got huge. We've got so we export livestock. We export. If I'll put it this way, if for some reason Australia found itself isolated from the rest of the world,
you'd be fine.
We'd be fine. We can feed ourselves. We can the resources to build. Yeah, we would be fine. So our biggest industries are by far mining, mining Australian economy going. So our coal goes over to India, like I said, our and to most of the world, our iron ore, uranium, but we've got it. We've definitely got it. I think the French were buying our uranium for a while, and until they started dropping atomic bombs. But resources we're good. A big moat around us if anyone wants to try and take it.
Now, I may be wrong, but I heard you guys because that's not true everywhere, but you guys especially do not want any animals brought in at all because of the delicate system in Australia of the animals.
100%. Yeah, we've had a lot of trouble with interest. So cane toads that came from Africa, they are there. Rabbits have become introduced, and foxes as well. And rabbits of all the things that the British bought. So we have cattle that's not cows, sheep.
Yeah, it's funny, but also not funny. Like the history. That's what they brought the rabbits in. Like, no, for populating. What eats rabbits? I know foxes. Let's get foxes. Oh no, the foxes aren't eating rabbits. They're eating something else now.
It's and look, a lot of the time, a small amount of animals can be brought over, then just completely decimate, populate really quickly, and then complete the local flora and fauna. The local flora and fauna,
because they can't adapt fast enough.
Is never a good thing. Look, we do have a very good wide range of here. You know, obviously everyone knows the kangaroo. Plenty of them around.
Yeah.
Animals
kind of like when,
I guess
it's kind of like when the murder, like last few years ago when the murder hornets came to America. Like the bees over in Asia can fight them off, but the bees over here in America are like, what do we do here? We have no idea what to do.
No, absolutely. It's because of humans, if they've been taught to are only, you know, a kangaroo box if it knew to. So, you know, kangaroos see, what are you? Well, actually, probably not kangaroos. Kangaroos and fox. But maybe not. But
yeah, I think videos of kangaroos being at humans. They get too close.
Yeah, kangaroos. They've got very, very powerful legs. Yeah, so, but look, I mean, kangaroos, they'll run away. We've got kangaroos here. So I mean, kangaroos. Yeah, like they're threatened, they'll fight, but they also they'll back off too. You know, the old boxing kangaroos where people will ruin the face if it's sort of up and threatening. Okay. If a kangaroo gets punched hard, around and go. Not that I've ever punched a kangaroo too, but
not going to fight. Like, you don't want to fight.
Kangaroos are cool.
You're not going to take the chance. But all right, so
I've only ever had friendly encounters with kangaroos. Kangaroos are cool, but kangaroos are one of the best ever eat.
Right. So speaking of fights of animals, what happened the time? Well, what was the deal at the time that that you got your butt kicked by a bunch of birds?
Oh, the Great Emu War, 1920. So there was war. So what had happened was Australia. There was a large population in human areas. So to rather dramatically declare war on them, they had a few people with machine guns, and the emus still managed to overrun. The idea was abandoned. The emus were just yes, the emus won the Great Emu War. You know, we won the First World War. We won the Second. The emus.
You beat the Germans twice, but the birds, nope.
Yeah, beat the Germans for the Ottoman Empire. No, the emus were a bit much for us. Although in our defence, it was three.
You're just overwhelmed by numbers.
Absolutely, it's the idea. It was just the idea.
So, were you guys in the war? Thinking of World War, did the Japanese take you over in World War II, before World War II, or is that did they not get close enough to take you over?
No. There was a submarine attack in Sydney, but untouched. Actually, the biggest was the Battle of Brisbane, where Australian troops. There was an Australian and American troops in Brisbane, even though the Americans were playing up a little bit. Some of the soldiers were doing. The Australians took too kindly to that and marched embarrassed and said, "Hey, these people right now." The Americans said no and threatened a shooting war broke out in Brisbane. 2 days later, it was that's the only major powers that have been fought on Australian. But no, the Japanese, their plan wasn't actually take over Australia. They're to knock us out of the war because a lot of it's too big and too arid, really, for to conquer. Although the Chinese would probably, but certainly at the time, the Japanese couldn't stay and occupy Australia. Knock Australia out of the war to take out military bases up north, and then was to meet Germans in India. So there was almost a bit of a race on to such a resource-rich part of the world. No, we didn't really have. I mean, absolutely was occupied and in Australian territory at the time, but mainland Australia, we were relatively untouched. That was a long answer to a short question.
Yeah,
I tend to do that though.
That's what we do here. All right, so I guess something happened there. What's the history of you in the modern days?
Well,
Anything
it's a
happened
unique
between
place.
World War II and now?
Oh, how many hours have you got? We've I'm mindful of time. I guess if we look at Australia, Second World War to now, we've definitely come into our nation. We've certainly we started the First World War. We were very much we're a British nation and considered themselves to be British, whereas First World War certainly the Australian was really formed. Actually, I'd say was really formed on the First World War. After the Second World War, we really sort of stepped away. We became closer to America. Thought that Australia and America we're best friends. We always look out for each other. Australia is actually like the US has been involved in. Australia, we have a policy that if America, Australia, and we've always each other.
Right.
I mean, obviously, military is a lot larger, but certainly we've got a lot of resource expertise that we provide. You want to have too many conflicts, but it's good to know facts. So I think, especially in the last probably 30 years, a separate identity again. We're a European nation. We are technically a Western Asian nation. We're very much in a unique sort of position where we're very multicultural. We've got a lot of people from a lot of different come in here. Obviously, the majority of the population are European descent, but we have huge Chinese populations, Pacific Island populations as well. Which we're finding our own in the world.
All right. So what is what is the deal, or how did this start? How did your feud or war with, not say war, but with New Zealand happen?
Well, I understand that we're better than them, and occasionally, the Australia is probably very similar to the US. Similar nations, similar culture. We'll always feud, especially in sports. We're very, very competitive with each other. But my goodness, if anyone ever tried to invade New Zealand, the first one's there. If anyone ever about New Zealand, will be the only Australian you can pick on.
Okay, so
it's like a big brother, little brother.
kind of like a sibling thing. You guys can get each other up. No one else can beat you up. Like only we can kick their butt.
Absolutely. If anyone tried to invade New Zealand, be all over them. But originally, New Zealand was meant to be part of so they were going to be the original discussions, and Fiji was going to be part of Australia, not joining now. But New Zealand opted not to because concerns about how in New Zealand the Maoris have a very different relationship with the Europeans than just Australians did, and there was about that. So New Zealand, and the Australian Federation. Interesting.
Also, speaking of animals, that you guys, I would say since you don't have the only marsupials, because we have our own possums in America, or opossums as we call them, I guess. The ones that stayed behind over here in the Americas. The possums are like, nah, we like it here. You guys go on ahead. We'll stay back here. You guys also have the only egg-laying mammals.
I didn't realize that.
Like
the platypus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like they decide.
Yeah. The platypus is an interesting animal.
So have you ever? And you live near where you live?
Yeah, not too far. Not likely to have. I mean, platypuses stick to the. So where I am, this water. I'm not coastal. We're but no, we not a lot. I mean, if I travel, I'll see platypus. You've got to look for them. They tend to, but I spent most of my life on the coast. Not too many of them there.
But also, speaking of invasive species and your former name, we have plenty of them invading America. But how's the creationist invasion in Australia going?
No, we're fine. We're nutty creationists. We send them over. There's a reason Ken Ham couldn't get his ministry. That's why he went to America. We're a fairly country, I guess. There's certainly the majority, not so much now, but would have Christian of some denomination, but they were traditionally Catholic or traditionally going to church. That's certainly how I grew up.
So they're not as big as political thing that they are over here then?
No, not even close. Politics is so ingrained in America.
Yeah, that's why I remember the past stream on your channel. I was like, the conservatives over there in Australia are totally different than the conservatives over here in America. Like,
Yeah, too.
Like
I'm a conservative.
I know, but you're like, yeah, I know, but yeah, but you're like, like I don't know. I don't know if you consider. But I'm saying I don't know if you could be even consider conservative over here sometimes.
No, I would be. I definitely would be. Religious element, because I'm very much about freedom of speech, small government, of ideals. I'd probably be they might even call me more libertarian in the US, but no, I'm conservative in the US, just on issues and issues where religion care. That's where the difference is. There is a lot of conservatives that I've spoken to religious who the best way forward for the movement is to separate religious elements. I mean, you even look at someone like religious. He certainly used the religious people around him, but anyway, religious. He's probably your first, ironically, but
so has the conservatives?
Sorry.
I was going to ask, has that conservative thing affected the history of Australia at all? That battle there, is it affected Australia's history or just another part of it?
I mean, different. I mean, I look at what happens in the US. I struggle to understand it sometimes because people will just because they voted a different way, which seems crazy to me. I mean, I've got friends who are completely different.
You disagree with, but you're not going out to hang them, like not going out to state.
Yeah.
Like I disagree with you, so I'm not gonna. So I'm gonna hang you all.
Yeah, thing or the express. But over on my channel, Hereticals, I think I'm probably generally who'll be there, or the five of us who'll be there, considered conservative or right wing, disagree on things, but we'll still have conversations. Jeff, Godless Scum, he's from the UK, as far left as you can get, calling the communist from time to time. But we disagree on, and we just know we're going to disagree. There's a lot of things we can have a discussion about too.
That's good.
In the US is really toxic. It's just the way that people overreact, like actions in America aren't that pure.
Yeah, that's actually why my family originally started breaking away from the church roots, because they were telling them how church was telling them how to vote. Like, vote this way because you're a church member.
Because churches shouldn't be doing that. I mean, I've run for office before, and I when I was at church at the time, and we'll be cheering for you behind the scenes, come out and support you, of course, and I was, of course, wouldn't expect that, but in America, it's how you'll have. I think politics are so just, and it's
intertwined.
Weird. It's so different. Well, intertwined, but just in it's like, and on both, you wouldn't have a Democrat who would exist in the US. It just wouldn't happen. But it's, I guess, the Democrats and are very much sort of intertwined, and it's the old Catholic Protestant divide to look at, and I'm someone who studied politics, and it's odd to look at. Hey, it's that's a system that it's American America's a great country.
Yeah.
But a lot of things that I wish, like, it's freedom of speech and that you have in America. We don't have that here. I mean, we've got not to the same levels that you guys. It's wonderful. Then there's a lot of things that I think are wrong.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
positives and
it's weird.
negatives.
I was in America.
I guess it depends if
Yeah,
you
I'd probably be pro. Yeah, when there's so many guns in America, I think you need guns off people. But I mean, a country like Australia, I know needs a gun.
It's weird. It's like with the pro gun thing, you know, like it's weird. You know, you like you say, like you like here in America, you say, I don't think people should be able, some random person should be able to get a semi-automatic rifle to use anywhere they want to, and they're like, you want to ban all guns everywhere? Like no, you don't. We just want to. We don't want to ban guns. We like they go straight like, you want to ban every gun ever? Like no, we don't think a bazooka should be in the hands of a random kid. How's that banning guns?
We banned weapons here back in the mid-90s. And as a nation, we were so shocked. You know, the government said, well, we're going to ban, don't need to have semi-automatic weapons. You know, certainly there's a need for them to have guns and things, you know, on farms, different. But there's no automatic weapons. So they and we haven't had a mass shooting since. Sorry, there was one where 3 people were shot and it was a family. But you know, by the same token, there's so many guns in America, but you can't. It's different.
Yeah, so we learned the lesson at how when you ban stuff, it makes it more popular everywhere. Like when we banned alcohol here, like, oh, alcohol's banned. Let's let the mobsters take control of it. Or when we banned drugs here, like
Yep.
all drugs, like, okay, let the cartel of Mexico come over and deliver it here. So banning everything.
And I mean, look, there's limits to what should be allowed and what should. I wouldn't imagine they'd ever, if they did, it wouldn't work for a start. I mean, it's our the earliest form of currency was rum. We had they didn't have money here when the first fleet would trade in rum. So we have it well and truly in here.
So do you guys have your own? Speaking of rum and stuff, do you guys have your own homegrown alcohol there? Is a different name or not? Like your own?
We've got we've got a that's very different. There's not like a special alcoholic drink. It's I mean, my drink of choice is we have huge wine. We have beer, very big in Australia. We're one of the in the world. Look, I'm
That's why I wonder if you have to, like I've seen people make beer with corn and wheat and stuff. I don't know if you have your own special native crop to Australia that makes the best beer there or something, or best alcoholic beverage there. Like that's native. Native grown beer.
Really, our sugar canes make a pretty Bundaberg rum.
I would say if it wasn't poisonous,
grapes.
You can make if it wasn't poisonous. Like say you can make your own little eucalyptus leaf beer if it wasn't poison.
Eucalyptus. Yeah, I guess you could probably make eucalyptus schnapps. But I could go. It's, I don't know, maybe that's a eucalyptus snaps or something. But our drinks are the same as your drinks. The whiskey, vodka, gin, Bailey's. Where wine is the best in the world, though. It's in Australia. Um, give us the best to grow some of the nicest grapes. The wine is fairly unique, and I can tell you nothing better.
Awesome.
But we've got a big coffee. We've got a big so our coffee is especially to the US. For extent that they all say they miss is the coffee.
So going to personal history, why did you change your YouTube name?
There's a lot of reasons, really.
All right.
So I guess I felt that I'd sort of done all the atheist community. I was a gap to write like myself, because it was very heavily what I'd call American left wing dominated, and it seemed to be more about rather than atheist issues. I saw a gap there, and I had to go. But there's been a lot of groups that are sort of groups like Atheists for Liberty, sort of stuff.
Okay.
I frustrated. I just sort of, there's only so many times Christians on the same thing. It was getting, and there's other things that I wanted to talk about that I felt like I couldn't really go towards, and it just sort of time for me. The original reason, it just kind of, I felt as though that doesn't change. I'm still atheist. I'm still that doesn't change, but I don't want the focus to be. I just want having conversations with people, and especially that I have that I don't necessarily. That's why I love with my channel at the moment. Like the other night, and I'm the only one who's on the right. And
apparently, we have disagreement here.
Great conversation.
Apparently, if someone disagrees in chat.
That's Ed, grumpy old regular on the channel, good mate of mine. One of the most too, Ed. He's really no. Ed only the Australian coffee, coffee, being American, and pretty. Don't you worry.
I was curious. A lot of people change their name for different reasons, so
it was just. It just felt like I just conversations out. So when you call the atheist party, what happens is people just want to constantly argue something on Twitter that had nothing to do with religion, or 5 people wanting to argue it had nothing to do with what I was posting. It's the same old, and it just gets boring. And it restrictions is still kind of a name that got a bit of a religious connotation. But hereticals is actually an anagram of my name, funnily. So, but it allows me to have more conversation. I don't want to drop the atheist completely. Like, there still will be some talk about it, but I don't want that to be the dominant. I want to be now.
True.
We were talking about Elon Musk and they're the conversations I want to have.
It's like some people do that, but it's hard to your certain way, you either have to change your name or you gotta create a whole new channel just for tackle different subjects sometimes.
Yeah.
And you
Consideration
went the
to change
former,
it.
just change your channel name instead of, okay, this channel here is going to be for this subject, and this channel here is going to be for this subject.
Yeah. Yeah, and when
Speaking of your channel,
yeah, sorry.
sorry, I was going to say something. You're still talking, so continue.
So what there is, sorry, I should have I've learned being in out a 1 to 2 second delay doesn't seem like a lot of time when it's going both ways. We can I talking, not realizing that you're talking and vice versa. Sorry, you're right to go ahead and ask that.
Well, I gotta say, speaking of your channel, let's come up on your channel.
Look, every time we'll do what's called Friday Night Six Pack, which is together, and it used to be talking about atheists, and we still will do a little bit, but which in the world, it's just it's really,
I think for me
just a group of friends.
Yeah. As I think for me, it's a Friday morning six pack.
Yeah, so I think it works out at the moment. It's about a quarter East Coast that it kicks off, which is a quarter past 10 in the evening, to be the friendly time that we could all. I am going to have a lot of conversations on social topics. I want to talk more about my passion is talking about history. Coming up, I think we're going this Friday. Yet to confirm that at this stage. Sometimes it gets confirmed, but look, if what I always say when we're doing something is to hit not only the certification belt, and that way it's going to tell you whenever.
Well, in a few weeks, if you want to, feel free to broadcast this on your channel if you want to.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Absolutely. As for me, tomorrow, me and my friends will be reviewing Love and Thunder, one of the later Marvel movies. Speaking of that,
good.
Hey, what's your opinion on the whole MCU over there? You personally like it, or you like it's stupid? What?
I don't like what they've the early end of Endgame they're putting out at the moment is absolute garbage about identity politics and actual narratives and actual superhero stories. It's called. I used to own a comic shop, so this is a bit. They're doing what's called the all new all different from the comics, and it was basically race and gender swapped everyone. It didn't work in the comics. It's not working now. The Thor: Love and Thunder is a terrible movie with a great soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, I do. I don't know if it's a race thing, but but this is me personally. I actually prefer. Maybe it's because it's a better story in my opinion, at least. But I like the current MJ better than I like the MJ from the 2000s. She was just terrible character, I think, in my opinion. Might have been the story. Might have been the story.
I the current MJ. I just wish they had called us something. What it is, anyone who's a redhead, they seem to redheads. In they all seem to get swapped. But to me the character isn't. I mean, which is something. It's just MJ.
But I think for me personally,
I didn't like. Sorry.
So I say maybe this is me personally, but I don't know. I don't think it's anything to do with at least this character. I think maybe just the writers for her character in the Sam Raimi trilogy just was terrible. She was just like just drove me crazy sometimes. But I know I just like her this new one's attitude. I guess.
I agree. I think that the Sam Raimi MJ a bit dull. You know, really at all. But yeah, but it's not MJ. I'm a comic nerd, and because I personally think Gwen Stacy is a much better. Always thought that Spider-Gwen is one of the cool that's out there, and one of the coolest characters.
Yeah, but I don't know. Whenever I hear
it done right.
I don't want to get whenever I push future type options. I don't really want to get close to a Gwen Stacy character because I know she might die. So it's like I don't want to focus. I don't want to like focus any like attachment to her because she might die. That's Gwen's job almost.
Yeah, it seems like that, especially in the movie. No, the Spider-Gwen character, the coolest new characters out, and it was done in a way that it was sort of off, where they had the Spider-Verses with all these. But the character just proved so popular. I think that's a great example. Yeah, some more diverse characters.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel's another example, of just organic character diversifying. It works, but I think when you just go, Thor's now a female.
Yeah, I guess
Captain America. Yeah, Hulk.
Yeah, I think Asian. It could sometimes. Yeah, it's nothing. I think there's nothing wrong with a diverse cast as long as the writing backs it up. You know, as long as it's good writing and isn't just diverse to be diverse.
At the moment, I mean, the whole idea that they're having is, all right, we need a new movie. All right, why don't we make them black, or we're going to make them, or
it's like
now this one's gay.
Yeah, but it's like they made the whole female Ghostbusters. That in itself wasn't a bad idea. People think we hate it because it was all females. No, we hated it because the stupid movie just sucked. Period.
It was a dog shit movie. It was just horrible. I couldn't watch it at all. It was just such a bad.
It had nothing to do with the all female cast. It's just the writing that sucked.
And I can't. The black character of her name. I know that she's an actress in Saturday Night Live, but I just thought just like this big racial stereotype, and I'm just like, this is just. But it wasn't a good movie.
Yeah, when they made the new movie that has connections to the old movies, I know it wasn't that great, but it was still better than the all female one.
I think I've watched some paint drying that was better, and that's not because. See, the problem is with having all female cast, occasionally swapping, or reimagining. But when it's done through example of this, where they like Jodie Whittaker took over, and I was a huge Doctor Who fan. But okay, I've seen Jodie Whittaker in. Hey, this could work. This is going to be a really interesting. I was seeing the stories that they could tell, but as soon as it happened, it was all gender.
I guess it depends. It depends.
I want to see a story.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Like I said, if you have a good enough writer, a good enough story, and a good enough director to make it work, then then I don't think the gender swap stuff or whatever would hurt that much if the story is good enough. Like I believe this. But usually it's just like, oh, we're changing it just to change it. And the same exact character they were before.
When I think of Doctor Who, I want to think of like these serialized stories where we've done and all this vast, amazing world that they have to explore. You know, I don't really male, female, you know, or what color or any others. If the storytelling is solid about, you know, Doctor Who's
Yeah.
adventure to tune in for an hour and be lectured to on politics, race politics,
Yeah.
any of that kind of stuff is what they're really doing at the moment. I mean,
It's
to be
like
entertained, I just want to sit down and escape.
yeah, it's
Politics
like
will go on Twitter.
yeah, I think one of the biggest things is like everyone I know, there's not everyone, but everyone loves the 90s Disney Milan, but everyone hates the 2020 Milan real life thing.
Yeah. They make it about identity. See, and I think that it's coming out of America. That's for the rest of the world. There's so much identity in America, and something you'll tune in to hear what's going on in America. Latino vote. It's the idea that people of a certain nation all think and act the same way, and why people are getting split up into baffling to me. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all unless you're basically in the we're all immigrants to a part of how far back that goes. We're all related. 6,000 years ago, were as West African, and it's only because of climate and also conditions, animals and farming and agriculture that light actually. But we're all the same, and I look at
Yeah.
if I look at someone, no, I don't care if they're black, Asian, any of that. To me, they're American, and the same as if Australian. If someone walks up and says "G'day, mate" to me, I know that they're Chinese, but you're talking like me. This is weird. Or okay, you're Australian.
Cool. But speaking of that, like I said, we're going to be reading Love and Thunder tomorrow, and then Saturday we'll be back in history because we're talking about the Vikings of England and how they
That's
ruled
some
England for a
interesting stuff.
time.
The Vikings. Anyone who's got English heritage?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
but now I will have to go my day over
yeah,
here.
that's why I was asking you, wrapping it up, because that's why I usually do. All right. So before we go, do you have a catchphrase to say? You have your own catchphrase in any of your shows at all?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful planet of ours. Have a wonderful morning, whatever it is, wherever you are.
All right, and as I always say, never stop learning and enjoy the randomness. I'll see you next time. Bye.
See you all.